Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Grace Corrigan, and I am the Employment Specialist at INCIGHT. And as you heard, this workshop is being recorded. You're welcome to keep your cameras on, but we ask that you please keep your microphone muted during the presentation just to reduce some background noise. And then once the presentation ends, we're going to open it up for questions. You can also submit any questions you have in the chat, and we will get to them as soon as we can. Before I start, I'd like to share a little bit about INCIGHT. Our mission is changing hearts and minds, leveraging obstacles, and unlocking potential. And we do this through our education and employment programs, which focus on helping individuals with disabilities and barriers. And if you'd like to learn more about our programs and services, please visit our website, which is www.insight.org, and that's insight with a C, or you can give us a call. Jobs Now is a component of our employment department, and one way we support job seekers is through our Get Ahead events. These are standalone workshops designed to provide individuals of all abilities with valuable tools and resources to help with their job search. And to explore past workshops focused on essential job seeking skills, you can visit our employment website, which is jobsnow.org, and then click on the Get Ahead tab. INCIGHT also hosts in-person job fairs, and our next job fair is on Tuesday, October 28th at PSU. That's in downtown Portland, where we'll be celebrating National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Registration for this event is currently open on our website, but I'll also be sending out emails with an advertisement and a registration link for that event. Our workshop this morning is titled From Skills to Satisfaction, Crafting a Career That Fits. And it is my pleasure to introduce Anne Lapour, the Executive Director of Career Initiatives at Willamette University. Welcome, Anne. I will now hand the workshop over to you.
Great. Thanks. And good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. And it's my privilege to be here with you this morning and share a little bit about what I do and hopefully some information that'll be helpful for you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and there we go. So hopefully everybody can see that all right. And okay. All right, so the title of the presentation today is From Skills to Satisfaction, Crafting a Career That Fits. So you'll hear me talk today a lot about the concept of fit and how important I feel that is when choosing a career for the first time maybe, or making a career transition or a small pivot in your professional life. And I'll talk a little bit about why this is so important to me in the work that I do. So as Grace mentioned, my name is Anne, and I work at Willamette University. I oversee our career programming for all of our schools, and I am mostly working with a team of career advisors, but I also work really closely with our alumni and with our faculty and other folks in our community. I've probably worked the most as far as populations go with college age folks, but my career has taken me to work with graduate students, with alumni, and so I'm definitely familiar with the phases of career development that occur at all points in your life, not just during that college age. So I'm happy to talk about career at all ages and stages. So a little bit about who I am and my background, which I think really shapes how I think about career. So my educational background is really in the field of psychology. So I studied psychology as an undergraduate and became really fascinated by the intersection of psychology and basically career choices. So I tell my students that I went to graduate school to get a degree, and what do I want to be when I grow up? So that's really what I'm focused on and have been for for really all of my career. Because I come to career development from this psychological lens, I approach it very much as an intersection between the personal and professional. I know that we're all looking for that elusive and coveted work-life balance, and I'm definitely a proponent of that. But I also believe that it's very difficult to fully separate your personal self from your professional self. And that may be even if you're not working outside of your home. Your professional self is always there, intersecting with your emotions, with your goals, with your family life, with everything that you are. And so sometimes I'll even have students come in to talk to me about, maybe it's something as simple as a resume. And then maybe a lot of, self-doubt creeps in or emotional content creeps in. And it's like, gosh, why am I getting so emotional about a resume? And it's of course you are, because these are your goals. This is who you are. This is what you're striving for. If you're in the middle of a transition that you didn't really plan on, gosh, that's definitely emotional. So I just want you to know that I come to this topic with an understanding that who you are as a person is deeply entwined with what you want to do. So with that said, here are some of the things that I'm going to cover today. I really do think of career development as a form of education. So I consider myself an educator. We'll talk about the concept of fit, what your role is in seeking fit, especially in a challenging job market, recognizing the things that you bring to a career, evaluating some areas of growth that you might have, and then we'll end on setting some really reasonable goals. It's easy to set goals like get a job. It's harder to set goals that are smaller and but that are easier to achieve. So why is fit so important? So for me, there's several reasons that a career fit is really critical to think about. So some of it is simply an issue of advancement and growth within an organization or within a job. So some of you maybe who are in school, maybe you've had to take a class that is just like not a fit for you. It's a mismatch. And it's hard to maintain the energy that you need to succeed in that class because it's just not where you naturally gravitate. The same is true of work settings. If anybody has ever been in a job that felt like for some reason, whether it was what you were doing or what the organization was trying to achieve, or maybe it was actually the people that you worked with. There was something about it that felt like a mismatch. Sometimes it's hard to get the energy to just show up both physically and emotionally and to put forth that extra effort. And so if you're in a place that feels congruent to you, you are a fit to where you are, it's easier to put in the energy that's needed to advance and to find yourself really growing rather than feeling stagnant. Fulfillment and satisfaction is kind of obvious, but it is really easy to gravitate towards the things that you know rather than the things that you want. And so I know that there have been times in my life when I've had to think about, okay, here's what I was trained to do versus here's what I want to do. And so sometimes it takes a little bit of a leap to move towards something that isn't necessarily what was in your plan or in sort of the goals that you thought you had set out for yourself. But just because something was once the right job doesn't mean that it is now. So we as humans evolve. You are not the same person today that you're going to be 3 years from now. And so your career should really evolve along with you. It is a competitive edge in the job market. If you are in an interview and you can tell somebody, because you will invariably get asked that question in an interview, why do you want this job? Why are you interviewing for this position? The best thing that you can do is have a really well-crafted, sincere, and emotionally intelligent response to that question. If an organization is like, yeah, they are a good fit for this role, then that is one of the best things that you can do in an interview and in a cover letter for that matter. But in order for you to do that in a compelling, convincing way, you've got to know it yourself, right? So you have to be able to explain, yes, here's why I'm a fit for this role. And then you practice those answers, and then you're ready to share that in what's a competitive job market. So if I'm a hiring manager and I have two people that on paper are equally qualified for a job, but one person can tell me, I really want this and here's why. And another person that's like, I'm qualified. There you go. I need a job. I'm going to go for that person that really understands why they want the position or why they want to work for that organization. And then last but not least, it's just a good source of community building. It is, I think everybody's been in jobs before where the community that they're, connected to because of their job is like not their people, right? Or doesn't feel supportive or doesn't feel like the kind of place where you are able to be your best self. And if you are in a place that is a good fit, then you're going to be excited to connect with the people in your work life, and that is going to make a huge difference in your level of satisfaction and also success. So those are a few of the reasons that I think about fit before I think about anything else. Before I even think about the qualifications of a job, I think about what is the fit. So this is my very fancy Venn diagram that is really not that fancy. And there are many versions of this on the internet. But when I think about a job that is a fit, I think about multiple components. A lot of times, so I guess when I work with college students, the thing that they are asked the most often is, well, what are you interested in? And that's important, right? You want to be interested in your work. I think more mid-career, I feel like the question people are asked the most is, what are you good at? What are you skilled at? But there are a lot of components to a job that make it a fit. So interests is one of those. So there's your interests. Are you interested in environment? Are you interested in people and personality? Are you interested in helping others? Are you interested in, I don't know, fashion? It could be any number of things, but what are you innately interested in? This is going to drive something around the fit. Yeah, we have a question and I'm happy to answer it.
You mentioned a Venn diagram. Are we supposed to be seeing that slide now? In the chat, there's a few people that were saying we
Oh,
don't see it.
you don't see the slide that says what's missing in your most recent job search?
Do not. We just see your name and the title and the little puzzle pieces that fit together.
Oh, so it's not advancing. Okay. That is weird. Yes, you should have been seeing other slides. So let me stop screen sharing for a second and then pull up thank you for letting me know. Okay, so I'm going to go back here to my Zoom screen and share again. Okay, and now I'm going to go over here. What are we seeing now? Are you seeing slides now? Yes.
We see
Okay.
slides, but it's like your whole desktop is
Yeah,
showing.
yeah, yeah. So now I'm going to go back to present. Did you lose it or do you still see it? You still see it. Okay. Thank you so much, Peg. I appreciate that. Okay. Well, now this is going to make a lot more sense. Okay. So here we go. Here's the diagram. There's the interests. So that's one component of work fit. So your skills, like I said, are also important. We tend to enjoy the things that we're good at. I tend to not enjoy the things as much that I'm not good at. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't room to grow in terms of your skill set within a job. There are things that we all have to get better at, and that you can grow to enjoy. So if you read any of the stuff, the literature out there on like growth mindset, there is the idea that as you improve at something, you also start to like it more. So something that I used to be quite terrified of, actually, and really did not see myself as skilled in, was public speaking. And it's something that I've grown to really enjoy because, frankly, I just had to do it for my job. And it was like, oh, this is going to be a barrier to my success. And then it turned out that the more I did it, the more I ended up liking it. But there are also innate skills that you have as a person, talents that you want to be able to use in a job. There's also your personality. So there are some of you that are list makers, that are not fond of ambiguity. There are some of you that are that don't necessarily handle it super well when things change at the last minute. And there's some of you that are great at that. You are the coveted people who thrive on the spontaneity, things changing at the last minute. You can do super high quality work in like a stressful situation. I envy you. So, but those are elements of personality that play into a job. The degree to which you want to work with people, the degree to which you want to lead people. These are all components of a job that have nothing to do necessarily with the industry or the topic, or sometimes even the job duties. It's an element of what are you most naturally gifted at when it comes to connecting in a work environment. And then last but not least, there is, sorry, I'm trying to make sure I can see. Sorry. There we go. Values. Okay, so your values are also incredibly important. So your values are the things that really drive your fit in an organization. So things like, honestly, like the working conditions, are there, is the compensation or the benefits, are the general work conditions of your workspace, like how are those playing into your fit, as well as what does the organization stand for? So in the middle of that Venn diagram, sometimes you see versions of this that say something kind of, like dream job or, perfect job or something like that. And there really isn't any such thing as that. I don't believe that there's necessarily one perfect job out there for anyone. I believe that there's thoughtful choices that you can make that are your next step. And so as long as you are working towards a thoughtful choice, you are working towards fit. So maybe you're sitting there thinking, well, okay, actually my current job, or maybe the job that I just left, or, wherever you are in your particular career process, was a good fit in terms of this, and this, but maybe not this. And so this may be a good time to reevaluate some of the things that you're interested in pursuing. So I would like a career that makes better use of my skills in organization or project management or public speaking or whatever it is. I would like a job that that's better at fulfilling my value of, equity or sustainability or whatever is important to you. I would like a career that suits the fill in the blank aspect of my personality, or maybe allows me to pursue an interest in something else. So maybe you've got a really good handle on your skill set and your personality and even the values, but you've stopped feeling interested in the work that you're doing or in the organization that you're doing that for. So what is the piece that's maybe for you missing, and where can you make some adjustments? So back to a little bit of diagramming here. So let's say you figure that out. Okay, this is something that's missing in my particular, career life. How do I change that? How do I go about engaging in making some adjustments? So career is cyclical, and it is going to continue to evolve throughout your life. So this is the way that I think about career development. And I think about career development this way, whether I'm talking to an 18-year-old or I'm talking to a 60-year-old, or even within my own career development. So you start with some level of self-knowledge. I like helping people, I like kids, and I like math. I don't know, whatever. And then so you know something about yourself. You know that you thrive in certain situations. You know that you are interested in certain things, and that you're good at X, Y, and Z. So starting to then connect that to a given career field or industry or something like that is really critical. And so this is where you're going to do two forms of research. You're going to do career research. So what are the nuts and bolts of that particular job? What are the conditions? What does an actual job look like? One of the best ways to find that out, I mean, in addition to online research, which is certainly a great place to start, is to do networking, which I don't really know very many people who enjoy the word networking, so I understand, and it makes a lot of people anxious. But really all that is talking to people, is being curious about people. So if you are curious, you're able to network. So if you can sit with another human and say, hey, what do you like about your job? You can network. If you can sit with a person and say, gosh, that sounds really interesting. What's advice that you might give to somebody who wants to get into that kind of work? You can network. Those are all things that are involved in that. And that's really a core piece of career research for me, is hearing it from the person doing it. And then gaining some level of applied experience to test it. So this is where you're essentially hypothesis testing. And this is where you are really constructing your idea of fit. So is something a fit? Well, I know something about myself. I know something about the market and the job. Now I'm actually going to test it out and see if I actually like it. So in my own professional life, I had to do this a couple of years ago. And I had the opportunity uh, to advance a bit in my particular role. I went from being a career advisor to being a career administrator. And I knew that I liked career development. And I knew a lot from networking about what the job was going to look like that I had the opportunity to move into. What I really didn't know is if I was going to like it, if it was going to feel right to me. And so I did my role on an interim basis for a little while to basically test it out, and ultimately moved into that role. So sometimes this is where, if you're looking to make a career transition or a career shift, this is where you want to spend a good chunk of your time, is in this little diagram here. Learning more about yourself, learning more about the market, and then finding ways to reality test. So these are some of the things that I recommend people do at each stage of this. So self-knowledge, talk to people that know you really well. Sometimes other people know you. I mean, you know yourself best, right? But sometimes other people have identified strengths within you or qualities within you that that you might not actually know about yourself. So keeping a journal of those things, a document. I keep a little folder in my email that is feedback that I've gotten from people, so that I can go back to that when I'm trying to think about sort of where am I headed next. So make sure that you keep that information. I've already talked about the power of informational interviews, essentially just talking to people. These are essential. Or even attending events that are open to the public. Sometimes there's, festivals or fairs or conferences that are open to anyone. And those can be a really great opportunity to sort of dive in and do a little bit of that fit analysis. So coming up relatively soon, I feel like, is the Portland Book Fair. So are you interested in publishing? Are you interested in the book industry? You can go to those things. Some of them do cost money, but oftentimes when they're open to the public, they're not hugely expensive, or there's sometimes ways to volunteer for conferences or events, and then get admission. And then gaining applied experience, volunteering your time. And doing that intentionally. So we talk a lot about getting involved in things, volunteering for things. But those are, it's easy to get yourself overbooked. So make sure that you're doing those things intentionally. What is something you need to know about yourself? And how can that drive volunteer experience? Take an online course, volunteer to use a new skill. Like you've decided that graphic design seems kind of interesting. Can you take some online courses, maybe do some stuff on YouTube, and then volunteer those new skills for like a nonprofit that could use your skills? So those are just ways to kind of immerse yourself in these steps in this cyclical pattern and start to gain some more awareness. And then the other thing that I think is actually really powerful, sometimes people think that they shouldn't job search until they're ready to apply for a job. I talk a lot about job searching before you're job searching. So, and this is really where I think the concept of fit you can really identify a lot before you get into a job. So find something, find a job post, find an organization and look at their HR pages and read their job descriptions, but do it actively. Do it with a pen or with a Google Doc or something that allows you to actually interact with that actual job post. Mark it up. Take note of personality fit, skill fit, interest fit, and value fit. And look to see where maybe something feels like a mismatch. So you're reading through that job description, smiley faces, check marks, strike throughs, whatever you need to do, but be thinking about what is it about me that makes me a good fit for this actual job. If there's gaps, then you can think about where you need to grow. So yeah, it looks like this is spot on, but they really need somebody with a little bit more experience in Microsoft Excel. Great. Then you know what your next thing is that you need to know to start building as far as your skill set. And then invariably, this can sometimes lead to feeling as though, okay, well, I found the thing that seems like a good fit, but I just don't think I'm qualified. This is particularly relevant, I think, sometimes when people are at the beginning of their career, but also very much if you are mid-career and you've been in one career for a lot of your life and you're thinking about making a pivot. It's easy to look at a job description from a different industry or a different type of role and believe that, okay, well, I haven't done that job before, therefore I'm not qualified, or I don't have the 3 years experience they're asking for, or the 10 years experience they're asking for. But how can you reinvent or rebrand yourself to demonstrate that you have maybe not had that job for 3 years, but you have built the skills that are required for that job for 3 years? So the skills that you see listed there are really the sort of transferable, durable skills that you see talked about a lot. These come from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. But you'll notice that these are all skills that are not specific to any one industry. Having professionalism, skills when it comes to teamwork, this is what employers want to see. And you don't have to have worked in one specific industry to have built these kinds of skills. These are in demand, they're relevant at all stages of your career, and they can be cultivated in multiple settings. And that includes outside of a job. So I spent some time personally after my first job. I spent some time home with my kids and didn't work outside the home for several years. But you better believe I developed some communication skills during that time, and some collaboration skills and some leadership skills, and also some technology skills. So these are all things that you can develop whether you are in a job or even maybe doing work outside of a traditional work setting. And these are some ways that I have identified. There's many more examples than this, but maybe outside of a traditional working environment where you've probably developed some of these skills. So communication, maybe you volunteer for an organization, maybe for something related to a family member's school or to a church group or to a nonprofit or whatever. Maybe you write up a newsletter for them. Maybe you run their social media. Those are things that you can do to build your communication skills. Conflict resolution, communicating with a school on behalf of a kid, serving on a committee that disagreed about something. This is prime stuff, prime fodder for a job interview. And I think that it's definitely not only okay, but I think admirable and appropriate to use a range of examples when you're interviewing for jobs. And so they don't all have to come from 1 or 2 or 3 very specific paid work experiences. Creative problem solving, maybe you've had to navigate a really complicated healthcare system on behalf of a family member that you're caring for. There's many people who take time out of a traditional working situation to care for a parent or a kid or somebody in their family. There are many skills that are involved in navigating that process. And so maybe that's something that you're able to bring to a working environment. And project management. We've all had to organize things. Maybe it's a fundraiser, maybe it's an event, or maybe it's taking part in some kind of volunteer initiative. But these are sort of what we call professional skills, but they can be gained in a multitude of ways. And then once you have decided that you've found something that is a potential fit, and you've identified that you have the transferable skills that are needed for that job, I cannot stress this enough, but rewrite your resume and rewrite it until it fits the job that you're applying for. It is really easy to think of your resume as this historic document that's like, here are the things I did in order. That's it. But this is a living, breathing document that should be changed and should be adjusted and it's a marketing document for you. And so if you've worked for 15 years in education and now you want to go work in HR, that resume should not look the same. All the same skills are there. Those people skills, those presentation skills, those organizational skills, all the same skills apply, but you're converting them into the job that you want. So I always say market yourself into the job that you want by selectively presenting the relevant work and the ways that you've done that work, and use the language of the industry that you're going into. So you've done great work. Now make it fit in the way that you yourself know that you are a fit. And so putting all of this together, we've gone through evaluate where you've been, refine the goals that make it a better fit, determine where you need to start. So do you need more self-knowledge? Do you need more research or networking content? And last but not least, set some very small achievable goals that will help you move forward. So when I set goals, you don't want to set a goal like, apply for new jobs or engage in a career pivot. These are not goals that are achievable. They're just going to sort of frustrate you. So maybe your goal for the day is just to update a resume bullet. Maybe it's to set a job alert on LinkedIn. Maybe it's to create a daily routine for yourself where you make your coffee or your tea and you scan job search engines to do some research. Do a little bit of that thing they call habit stacking. So when I have my coffee, I also do this. Conduct one form of outreach, but be sure you tailor it. So it's not enough just to send a LinkedIn request to connect with somebody. Add that note, take that extra step of adding a note and saying, your job looks really fascinating. I've always wanted to work in blank. I'm wondering if you would be willing to connect with me. Maybe set a goal of a certain number of connections, or maybe you research a company that's always been really interesting to you, and you spend some time researching that company. But whenever you're setting these goals, think about how does that get you closer to a strong fit professionally? So how does each one of those goals relate to this concept of getting you closer to a fit? And I'm just going to end on a quote that I think is helpful for me when I think about career development. And somebody gave this to me a long time ago on the front of a greeting card. It just says, nothing happens and nothing happens and everything happens. And I feel like life is a little bit that way, and career searches and job searches are a little bit that way. It can feel like nothing is happening until all of a sudden things start happening, but you have to be the sort of impetus behind that. As long as you are actively engaging in these things and moving yourself closer to a solid fit, things do start to happen. And that's it. That's that. Let's see. And I am at 34 minutes. So I hope that there are some questions I can answer, and I'm going to stop sharing so that I can see your lovely faces. And thank you for being patient with my little technology thing there at the beginning. But yeah, I'm happy to answer questions or entertain some conversation, however I can be helpful.
You did a great job. Thank you. That I loved your slideshow. I'll be gleaning off of that and your remark about market yourself into the job you want. I wrote that one down because that is so true, right? Where we can't just throw things out there. We need to personalize it and speak to that particular job description. And that was great. So if you folks want to unmute and ask questions, or you can, if you're more comfortable typing them in the chat, that's fine too. Okay, so Dickinson says you shared on various skills. Can you cover more on EQ, emotional intelligence?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and that's definitely something that employers want to see. So, emotional intelligence for me is knowing what your strengths are and what your areas of growth are, and being able to articulate those in a sincere and authentic way. So, I feel like there's a lot of information out there, like how to answer questions related to when you've struggled or when you've had to manage conflict. Um, I think that the best answers to those questions in interviews or in cover letters or things like that are the ones that come from self-reflection. So emotional intelligence is something that I feel like you can't fudge it. You have to have spent some time thinking about maybe a project that didn't go so well, or maybe a project that did go really well. And what was your role in that? Sometimes people find this kind of thing helpful to do, like online assessments and that kind of thing. I feel like that's very dependent on the person. But like, I know, for example, just from analyzing my own work sort of style, that I tend to I need to solve problems by a lot of interpersonal conversation with other people. I don't do well when I'm asked to solve a problem in isolation. Maybe something that I struggle with is, delegating things, or maybe something that I think I do particularly well is identifying the qualities that really make somebody motivated in a job, and then leveraging that to help us all work better as a team. But those are things that I only know from having spent some time really analyzing, evaluations I've received, or frustrations that I've had. So you can know those things, and then to convey that you have that knowledge and that information, you got to practice being able to talk about it. So I can know all of this internally, but then if an employer asks me, tell me about a time that you were in charge of a project that didn't go so well. I got to have an answer to that question, which requires, and my ability to talk about what I learned from that is the emotional intelligence piece. So it's really about being able to understand how you thrive, why you thrive, when you don't, why, and then to be able to connect that to the job in question and articulate it to somebody else. I don't know if that helps. I see a question in the chat. What's the most challenging soft skill that you have to learn? I feel like this depends on the person, right? So sometimes leadership, for example, is a soft skill, and that comes really naturally to some people not so much. But I also feel like most soft skills have like a spectrum, right? Like it's not just, you can think about the word communication, and some people think of like public speaking as communication, but maybe a job doesn't really require that you're interested in. Maybe what it requires is written communication skills, or, designing materials that are going to be used to help train people. That's a form of communication that may or may not require public speaking. So I think the most challenging soft skill is the one that comes the least naturally to you. And that's going to be different for every single person. I find it personally challenging. And this is really funny because I come from literally a counseling background. It's all interpersonal stuff that I was trained in. And one of the things that I find the most challenging is giving people critical feedback. I really hate it. And that is a soft skill that I personally struggle with. So
I think most of us struggle with that.
that's a tough one.
You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. You don't want to be the bad guy, but sometimes tough love pays off.
These
All
are
right,
great
does anybody
questions.
else have any questions? I kind of like how you talked about home skills and especially like we got 19 students here today, right? That are going out in life and they maybe don't have a lot of job experience, but they do have a lot of home experience
Yep.
and interaction, with family and elderly people, and maybe they've gained skills and creating healthcare. I liked how you said that.
Yeah, I mean, and I've worked with a lot of college students that that have been sort of the translator and the advocate for whether it's a grandparent or a parent that maybe needs help with language barriers in the healthcare system. That's a really important transferable skill as well. So there's things like that you may have done that is really important.
Sure, and even technology now, the younger people, how easy it comes to them, and not so much for grandma and grandpa. So, just learning to teach and instruct.
Mhm. I think one of the other skills that I think is asked about a lot in job interviews is skills related to equity and diversity. And those are things that are developed definitely outside of the work setting, as well as within a work setting that a lot of people have experience with that can talk about as well.
I
Um,
have a question.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. It is very informative. Sorry, I joined late
That's
in the
okay.
middle of the presentation. My name is Corso Butucha. I'm Director of Workforce and Employment Service here at IRCO. Yeah, a good resume can speak to the employers, but good resume alone may not be sufficient.
Yeah.
Interview should be there also. So sometimes when we read a good resume and then interview the candidate, there could be some variation or differences. What you read in the resume cannot come out during the interview.
Mhm.
This is not because of there is a problem with the resume and the candidate, but during the interview, sometimes there are factors such as maybe the person is not such a self-explainer or can speak out. That is number one. Number two, some sort of panic could be there during the interview.
Mhm.
So these factors contributed to, you question, okay, well, the resume is excellent, but the candidate is not performing well. So how to
Mhm.
balance and reconcile this situation?
Yeah, I mean, it is really, so I think I can answer that from both sides of the equation. So from the candidate side, it's why practicing interview skills is really is so critical. And what I recommend, I mean, if you have an opportunity to do like a mock interview with somebody, that's great. Even better if it's somebody you don't know very well. So not your roommate, not your mom, but somebody else that you actually maybe even makes you a tiny bit nervous. Another thing that I think can be really useful is to record yourself, which I know sounds terrifying, but is actually very informative. So, literally something as simple as hopping on a Zoom or something like that, or just using your phone to record yourself giving an interview answer, maybe even timing yourself. That can be really informative. So you're right. There's a lot that you can have a great resume and then, lose your ability to sort of convey that in the interview. So just that practice piece is really, really critical. I think it's also good to practice being authentic. At the end of the day, in an interview situation, yes, they're looking to see if you're qualified for the job. They also want to see if they want to work with you. It really is important. And so you want to be like I call it the professional version of you. So be you. Obviously, you're going to be interview mode you, but it should still feel like you in that space. From the
Mhm.
employer side of the equation, I think, you know, it's really critical to ask interview questions that are useful in terms of checking in on somebody's emotional intelligence, self-insight, their knowledge of their ability to do the job. When I interview somebody, I really want to know the answer to the job. Why do you want or to the question, why do you want this job? That for me is like almost the most important question that I ask. There are a lot of things that can be trained and taught, but somebody's genuine commitment to the organization or to the role itself, that has to be there before anything else.
Thank you.
I did see a question about AI tools,
Mhm.
revising your resume for a specific job, writing cover letters. I definitely think that it's a great tool. I am not, I think that for a lot of people, that can make the difference between being able to tailor your materials and not. I do think it's really important that it's not your sole resource. So you're not just asking ChatGPT to write your cover letter for a given job, but it's more about using it to refine, using it to research, asking AI to pick out really important skills from a job description, and then making sure that you're addressing those in your cover letter. So it's a tool, it's not a substitution for your own voice or your own writing. But it can definitely be a helpful assistant to you. And I know that there's a lot of presentations and a lot of content out there about that. But as long as you sound like you and you're using it as a tool rather than a substitution, I don't have a problem with that. Oh, thanks for those resources, Grace. Oh, I think you're muted still.
Grace, you're on mute, I think.
Yeah, Grace, you're unmuted.
Sorry. I just shared also a link for our last Get Ahead event, which was AI that works smarter, tools
Great.
for your job search journey. So, Michael, to answer that question, you might want to take time to just, review that video because the gentleman shared a lot of great tips about that. Anybody else have anything they are interested in chatting?
Thanks for joining Portland Public School.
Yeah, absolutely.
Muted for a sec. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love like so many great tips we talk about, like practicing for interviewing, getting plenty of experience, and including volunteering. So thank you so much. Really helpful. And yeah, and thank you for the help. INCIGHT. We're going to be going to that next job fair, and I know sometimes you have opportunities for students or for people attending to practice interviewing. Is that going to be something ongoing?
Well, it's actually, I do it, all the time. It's not going to be at the job fair though. We do
Okay.
have resume review tables at the
Okay,
job
great.
fair. So you can definitely have your students, sit in on that and glean from that. But if anybody is interested in doing a mock interview, I would need a copy of your resume. And then I also need to have the job description so that I can kind of go and research that job and I can come up with some, pertinent questions. And then I will create a Zoom meet and I'll work with whoever reaches out to me.
All right, great. Thank you so much, everybody. All right.
Okay. Anybody else have any other comments or questions? Pia or Stephanie, do you have any thoughts before we leave?
Thank you, Anne. It was really great.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, excellent information. And we will be sharing this recording on our website either later today or by tomorrow. So if anyone wants to share it with anyone they know, you'll be able to find it there and you'll be able to share.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Anne, for being here today and sharing your career expertise with us. And also anybody who's left, I'm thanking you too. It looks like a lot of people are already bowing out. But I will share this PowerPoint presentation with everyone. And then also, once we do have it up on our website, this recording, I'll send out an email with both of those items. So I hope everybody has a great day, and we'll just keep moving forward.
Good
Grace,
luck,
thank you.
everyone. Yeah.